this is Joe Parsons, who's going to talk, I guess, give us an update maybe on energy management, Joe.
Yes, sir. And I apologize in advance, I've got a little bit of a chest cold, so bear with me if I choke out on you here. My name's Joe Parsons. Some of you are new to the board since I've been here last time. I work for Dr. Cockrell out of RESA 2, and I'm assigned here to Lincoln County as the energy manager. As part of our duties, every 6 months, I'm come in to give a board report to y'all on how we're progressing on the energy program. And for the new folks on the board, Larry and Mr. McAllister, what we have done is 4.5 years ago, the board entered into a contract with a company called Energy Education. And the target was to help reduce our utility costs throughout the district, focusing on electricity, gas, water, and sewer. And when we signed the contract, it was a 4-year contract. We paid for their services for that period of time. During the first 4 years of our program, we achieved savings, and I'm going to leave all these papers with Brenda in case any of you want to review them afterwards. We achieved savings of over $1 million in 4 years' time on our utility costs. Starting in February of this year, we went what's called out of contract, which means we no longer have to pay for their services. However, as long as we continue to employ at least a part-time energy manager and keep our software upgraded, we can access all of their services. Their consultants will come in at our request. We can go to their training seminars, which they hold 3 a year throughout the country, and we can use their computer software and receive all of their training information and newsletters free of charge. So at this point forward is where I think the board will actually see the greatest amount of savings. I know it's real easy to be skeptical, you know, how much money you've saved, you know, when you talk about cost avoidance. But this is a report that I found in the site that really drives it home to me, and I'm going to talk mainly about electricity costs because that is our biggest cost right now. In the 2007-2008 school year, which was the last school year preceding entering into the contract, Lincoln County Schools used 8,448,900 kilowatt hours of electricity. The following year, we dropped that down to 6,500,000. We achieved a 1,900,000 reduction in the kilowatt hours. The following year, it was down to 6,300,000, which was over a 2 million reduction in kilowatt hours used. Year 3, we was down to 6,300,000 again, once again over a 2 million reduction in kilowatt hours used. And in the 4th year, it was 6,565,000. It went up, and our reduction was only 1,800,000. However, during this year, we added the New Hartz Pre-K-8 school, which has a chiller system, which is very expensive to run with supplying electricity to that. And we didn't completely close. As a matter of fact, we're still paying utilities at both of the 2 schools we closed. So we didn't get a complete reduction there from closing 2 schools, and we added a more expensive school to operate. So it went up a little bit, but not a lot. Where that's important is, in the first year that we started this, we were paying about 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. Over the course of time, and all of you have read in the paper how often electricity is going up, about twice a year. This past year, electricity cost us about 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you just look at the number of kilowatt hours we have reduced and multiply that by 8.5 cents, you'll come up with very nearly the figures that they're projecting here that we would save. We saw a tremendous decreasing the amount of gas that we've used. We measure that by MCFs. This past year, I myself was shocked at how much we had reduced. We reduced our consumption by over 7,000 NCFs, but bear in mind, we had an extremely mild winter this past winter. That reflects almost double what we'd saved in any other year. All told, and I've got a form here that prints out our savings in each year. Water, we don't really save a lot. We are not big in this county. As a matter of fact, we have no facilities where we actually do sprinkling or irrigation on the lawns, on the athletic fields that you would see in other areas like in the south, in Texas, in southeast, out west. That is a big area of savings for them because they do a lot of that type of irrigation. But we don't. So we don't see a lot of savings there other than when we have leaks. Now there's somebody to catch it and address it immediately, try to get a refund on the overage we have. Year by year, we have saved roughly $250,000 each year that we would have paid in utility costs had we not entered into this program. This year so far, in the first 4 months, I have complete data through August. We have saved $107,000, mostly in electricity costs. So what we try to do in this program, to explain a little bit about how it works, is we try to achieve our savings at night, over the weekends, over the holidays, and through the summer, when the buildings are unoccupied. We don't want to interfere with the learning environment at all while the students and teachers are in the building. And what we do is try to modulate it otherwise and achieve our savings when there's nobody there. It's been very successful. I have to commend all of the staff throughout Lincoln County. I go to these conferences and I hear horror stories, you know, from some of the other districts where they have very strong union representation up around Toledo, up in New Jersey and places like that, where they get a lot of resistance from the staff to any ideas that they have to try to adjust. I've never encountered that here. Everybody here in Lincoln County has been very cooperative, very helpful, and they've bought into the program, and we're seeing results from that. So I want you to know as a board that your staff is doing a tremendous job out here. I keep in contact with them when we have 3-day weekends coming up, and I send out emails and ask them tell them how to shut their rooms down for the best savings, and almost invariably they do exactly what we ask them to do. There's occasions that they don't, and you know, everybody forgets sometime or other, has to run out, have somebody sick at home and runs out and forgets to shut their room down. But it's been, at this point, a successful program and a tremendous program. We're in our 5th year. We're starting our 5th year of it now. And I've offered in the past, excuse me, any of you who, you know, don't have anything to do in the evening and want to come out with me and go through some of these schools at night and see what we do and see what's left on and where else we can save. And there still is, I can tell you, quite a bit of meat left on the bone, where there's other savings that we can still achieve. It's just a matter of getting to that point. Some of it's technology and involving the computers and getting them shut down. And I'm working with Danny daily and have been working with him for some time in that regard. But that's an open invitation. Anybody that wants to come out at any time and go with me for a couple of hours, you might be surprised what you see in these buildings late at night when there's nobody else in it, including a couple of ghosts. Does anybody have any questions, especially the new folks that this is new information? I know Steve and Fred's heard it before already.
I do have a question. When you shut the power down, nights or weekends, is like the fire alarm, is it still working?
No,
The
and
security system?
when I say we shut the power down, we don't actually shut the power down. What we do is with the heating and cooling, for instance, we turn it off at, say, 5 o'clock in the evening, and we don't start cooling the building again unless the building gets above 80 degrees. I want that safety net there. If it gets too hot, then it takes too long to cool off the next morning, and the rooms aren't comfortable for the kids or the teachers. And so for that reason, we have a setback point for air conditioning and a setback point for heat, and we don't let it go below that point, and the equipment will kick on and cool the building down if it gets beyond that. We've got several different types of buildings here. Our newer buildings are all automated, and I can control from right over in my office on the computer individual room temperatures, how much air they're getting, you know, how much we're going to open the chilled water, hot water valve. But we also have some very old buildings that have window air conditioning. They have individual furnaces for their room. And we had a lot, when I first started here, we had a lot of the old mercury thermostats that we couldn't adjust very much, because the first time somebody was there to turn the heat back on or the air conditioning back on in the morning was when the teacher walked in the room. To that end, we have spent money. We've entered into a program called PJM Demand Reduction Program through AEP, and they pay us so much money to be on standby in case there's an event on the electrical grid in the eastern United States and we have to shut down for a period of time. They allowed me to utilize that money. We have bought programmable thermostats for all our rooms that had the mercury dial, and what happens now is, you know, they're preset. The air conditioning or heat comes on an hour before anybody reports the building, and the room is warm or cool when they first walk in, and it'll shut off, you know, at 4 or 5 o'clock when they leave. Any other questions?
A month or so ago, did we not have to do something with the grid?
We did. It was the first time in 10 years of this PJM program where the electrical grid called an emergency, and they asked us to shut down. Now, there's specific periods of time that they can request that we do that, and luckily for us, you know, it falls towards the afternoon, about the time the kids are getting out of school anyway, and it's mainly for the evening, so we had to shut down from like 2 o'clock until 10 o'clock that night. Well, you know, at the elementary school, the kids are leaving at 2:30, even at the high school, 3:30. And when you shut down air conditioning at the high school at 2 o'clock, that building will maintain its temperature for hours before it's noticeable. So we actually, every year we had to do a test in August, and I was worried about that because the test was going to fall during the first week of school, where we started early. Normally it's the week prior to school starting. But because they called this event in July, they didn't require us to do a test. And I have not got any feedback from Core Energy, who administrates that for us, as to what our performance was. They cut back the number of schools that we participate in that program quite a bit. Now it's some of the automated schools. They cut out some of the smaller ones, which is helpful for me because, like at Duval, where they're not automated, when they called out the emergency, I had to physically drive to Duval and go room to room, shutting off air conditioners and lights and computer equipment and everything. You know, after, of course, we did that after the kids were gone, but we didn't have any problems.
I thought there was one. Mr. Wilson, do you have something?
Yeah, Joe, I know you can't measure this like you measure the usage of the gas and electricity. Wouldn't there be a lot of savings on appliances, heating, cooling equipment and everything, where it's not being used, it's not being wasted?
There are, and that's kind of a touchy area with us. Are you talking about the personal appliances that teachers have in there?
No. I'm talking about the heating and cooling equipment, because you're not wasting energy. You're shutting, well, not shutting down, but you're reducing the.
Well, that's where the bulk of our savings is coming from, if I'm following what you're asking me, that's where the bulk of our electrical savings is coming from. These chillers that we have at these schools are extremely costly to run. And we have them now at both of the Hamlin schools, elementary and middle school. We have chiller systems at Lincoln County High School, at West Hamlin Elementary, and now the New Hartz Pre-K8. And we actually, to try to keep costs down, because your electrical costs are also tied in on the demand charge, which is your peak usage. Whatever the most you use for any particular 30-minute period is what's going to set, whatever the most is what's going to set your rate for that entire month from the electric company. For that reason, like Lincoln County High School has 6 zones within the school. And rather than in the mornings bringing all 6 of those zones on at the same time and having, you know, all the compressors on the chiller kicking in and all the fans on the UV units kicking on at the same time, driving that demand rate up, Greg Gosley and I have staggered that over there so that we have 2 sections come on every 30 minutes. So we bring 2 on, and the areas that are least occupied or takes the shortest time to cool are the last ones we bring on. But we bring them all on in time to cool the building. One of the other things I wanted to mention to you all of you are probably familiar with the Energy Star program. I want to tell you that Lincoln County is one of only 2 counties in the state of West Virginia that are the bulk of our schools are Energy Star certified. We received those awards in 2010 and also in 2011. I'm in the process right now of applying for 2012. EPA lost our application for 2011. However, we qualified for 2 separate district awards that year. One was the Leader Award, which it bases off of how much percentage you have reduced your electrical usage or reduced your utility costs, and we qualified at a 20% leader rate. That's a district-wide award. It should have come to Ms. Lucas. They lost her application in Washington. Also, they have a top performer award, which means as a district, your buildings have to be within the top 25% in the nation. And we were extremely close on that, and Energy Education believed that we could achieve that, so they applied for that for us. Once again, that was lost, but we also qualified this year. And I was communicating with them today for both the Leader Award and the Top Performer Award. And it looks like we should be able to get both awards again this year, provided there's no mess up. And that's a pretty big feather in the cap of the district for you all to show the public that you're good stewards of their money, of their tax money. You're not out here wasting it, you know, just throwing it out on whatever, leaving the air conditioning run in the buildings all weekend long or all summer long when there's nobody there. And I just think it's a big feather in everybody's cap. Did I answer your question, Larry? Anything else?
Anything else you want? Okay. Thanks, Joe, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see you in 6